What's going on, everybody? This is Island Hopper TV, and today we're going to talk about the things to know when visiting Sri Lanka. Let's do it. Let's talk about the arrival process into Sri Lanka. So you're going to need a visa. You can actually get a visa on arrival, or you can go on the government website and get a visa before you arrive. Now, it's important that you have that done prior to arrival so you can save time. But make sure you have a printed out copy of it or a screenshot on your phone. Although I will say this, when I arrived at the airport and showed the immigration officer, he didn't even care to see it because I believe that it's attached to the passport. So it was less than a minute that I spent talking to the actual immigration officer. It was really quick, so that should be a breeze. There is also an arrival card that you should fill out before you arrive, although they didn't ask me for that. But that's what you need to know when you arrive in Sri Lanka with the arrival process. Let's talk about safety here in Sri Lanka. So the things that you need to know about safety, obviously getting in a bus or the train, they don't have the same safety standards where you come from. There's no doors. People just stand outside the train. They also stand outside the bus. There's no seatbelts. Bus drivers also drive very unsafe. They drive very fast. So that's something that I would say is something you should pay attention to with safety when you're getting into the public transportation. I've been going around on tuk-tuks. For the most part, they're safe. But again, tuk-tuks, if you're ever in a collision, not the safest vehicle to be in. As far as going around the country with the people, very safe. I mean, the crime rate with tourists, from locals to tourists, very low. The thing that I would say take into consideration, there is a little bit of scamming going on. Not necessarily scamming, but a little bit of misinterpretation when it comes to pricing. So I've seen this happen where, they'll come up to you with a snake and they'll ask you to take a picture. Next thing you know, you owe them 5,000 Sri Lankan rupee. That's something that, can be a bit frustrating. But generally speaking, as far as violent crime and petty theft, I would say it's fairly safe here for sure. I've gone around Colombo, I've been down to Galle. I felt like always walking around. It was as safe as any place I've ever been to. That doesn't mean that there's not crime, it just means it's very safe. But that one thing I would say, pay attention to those tourist trap kind of scams, I would say. Those do exist, or even going down to where those stilt fishermen are. They'll tell you, take a picture with them, but the next thing you know, you're paying 5,000 Sri Lankan rupee for that, and you didn't even know that you were gonna have to pay them 5,000, right? And they're a little bit pushy, but that's about it. All right, now let's talk about the best places to go in Sri Lanka. So I'm here in Colombo at one of the rooftop bars, but there's a lot to Sri Lanka that you want to check out. You'll go to Yala, you can go to Kandy, you can ride the train through those places. Also going to the south, you have Galle, and then you have Marissa Beach, and several other beaches like Jungle Beach down there. So there's a lot of places for you to explore, including ancient towns with beautiful temples. There's a giant rock like Sigiriya. You can actually walk up to the top of that beautiful rock formation there and see the fortress on the top. So lots of places to go in Sri Lanka. So you got mountains like Adam's Peak. So definitely get ready to do a lot of exploring while here, and checking out some of the national parks where they have lots of wildlife, peacocks, elephants, big cats, so much to see. All right, so let's talk about the currency here in Sri Lanka. So it's the Sri Lankan rupiah, also known as LKR. Now, $1 equals 294 Sri Lankan rupee at the time I'm making this video. Now, as far as transacting using credit cards or other forms of payments, I have used credit cards quite frequently. In fact, they even have some cashless places in Colombo in the new malls. But generally speaking, you're gonna wanna pull out probably around 40,000 rupiah right when you get here. That's gonna get you started. 500, you might think that 500 is a lot of money, but sometimes you'll give a person 500 rupee and they won't even accept it because it's such a low amount of money. So you have to get a feel for how much money everything's worth. Typically things are gonna be around 5,000 to 10,000 just to do a tour around the city for a couple hours. Just giving you an idea of what to expect. All right, let's talk about the weather. So when is the best time to arrive in Sri Lanka? Well, that's generally speaking going to be from December until about April. The thing is, they get 2 monsoon seasons in Sri Lanka. So at one point in time, another side of the island, like the east side of the island, might be better than the west side of the island. But generally speaking, from December to April is the best time. Right now I'm here in January and there is a bit of rainy weather. They are getting hit with monsoon type weather. So even though there's that general rule, that doesn't mean that it's not going to rain. I just say this because a lot of people want sunny weather. I was in Colombo, it was sunny, and then I went south to Galle, and then it started to get overcast and a bit like foggy kind of, misty, I would say, conditions. But that's what you need to know. As far as the actual heat of the day, it's pretty tolerable. It's not too hot, but it does get muggy around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, especially if the sun's out. It can be quite hot. All right, now let's talk about food here in Sri Lanka. Really, the big staples of the diet, it seemed like for me, was going to be chicken, especially with like chicken curry, the rice, and then you had other dishes that involved potatoes and lots of flavor. So curcumin, all of that kind of stuff, soups, chutneys, really tasty, savory food, but it's pretty much a lot of carbs. And seafood, prawns, also crabs, and scalefish. All right, now let's talk about transportation and getting around Sri Lanka. So I've mostly been getting around Colombo here on a tuk-tuk. You can take a tuk-tuk long distance, but I would suggest taking a taxi. They have rideshare here, they have Uber, they also have PickMe. So download PickMe if you're coming here to the cities. You can also get around on the buses, although that's not going to be the safest option, I would suggest. Then you have trains. So you can do trains all around Sri Lanka. They have a train right here along the coast right here. They have trains in the inland, Elia. They have many different trains, but that's the main thing about transportation. The one main international airport is going to be here in Colombo towards the north side of the city. That's what you need to know about transportation. I would say avoid buses if you can. All right, so now let's talk about some interesting facts about Sri Lanka. So there's about 23 million people in Sri Lanka, about 2 million in Colombo, 2.5 million thereabouts. And it's nicknamed the teardrop of India because it's an island off the southeastern coast, also the pearl of the Indian Ocean, because it's so beautiful. I mean, you go around this island, you'll be amazed. But it used to be controlled by the Portuguese from the 15 to 1600s, then the Dutch from the 16 to 1700s, and then the British from 17 to 1900s. And now it's an independent republic known as the Republic of Sri Lanka. The languages they speak here are Sinhalese or Singala, and then they also have Tamil, which is kind of similar to what you have up in northern India. So that's what you need to know. So in case you're wondering what Sri Lanka actually means, it means resplendent island, which is luxurious, beautiful, grandiose island. That's what Sri Lanka translates to. It used to be called Ceylon when the Portuguese were here. That's why you'll go around here and you'll see like Ceylon tea or Ceylon restaurant, Ceylon. But nowadays it's called Sri Lanka, the land of magnificent scenery. So now let's talk about the people of Sri Lanka. So I have been to 89 countries now, and I would say that the people in Sri Lanka are the top 5 friendliest people in the world. They're always so accommodating and friendly, and I'm not just saying that because I'm some guy who's here trying to sound excited about a place. Literally, the people here are very friendly. They're always looking to take care of you. The only time I didn't have a positive interaction was at the airport. At the airport at immigration, and it wasn't even a bad experience. It was just I said hello, how are you, to the immigration officer, and he didn't answer. But outside of that, once I left that airport, everyone, everywhere I went, was so friendly, smiling, and it was genuine, and can't wait to come back here and experience that energy. All right, let's talk about cost of travel throughout Sri Lanka. So they have luxury hotels. Colombo actually has reasonably priced luxury hotels. I'm staying at the Sheraton. I also stayed at the Hilton. The price there was around $100 to $150 per night. But as you go south, if you start staying at some of the luxury hotels, prices range anywhere between $250 to $300, even more in some areas around Galle and in between there. So they have the luxury experience where you get that really expensive pricing, and you got the Marriotts and the Sheratons, but then you also have budget-friendly hotels for those of you who are on a budget. I saw hotels around Galle going for around $30 to $35 a night. As far as food goes, very affordable. Now, as far as tipping here in Sri Lanka, typically 50 to 100 rupees is suffice for a restaurant.
And tipping is kind of expected here, but 50 to 100 rupees really isn't a lot of money. If you want to up that to maybe 300 rupees or 500 rupees, I'm sure they'll appreciate you a bit more. But transportation, if you're going to take a private car, you're looking to take around $45 for maybe a 4-hour trip, or if you're trying to go longer, it could be upwards of over $100 for a private car. So it is affordable, but in some areas it can be quite expensive. All right, so now for my final review of Sri Lanka. I'm at the airport. That airport departure was longer than the arrival by a long shot. There was lines, many lines. Line to get in the airport, line to check in and scan your baggage, line to actually check in your baggage to the airline, then line to go through immigration. Then there's a line to actually do the security clearance at the gate. So be ready for lots of scans and lines when you depart. So give yourself about 2 to 3 hours. And I did that as a business class. So if business class is doing that with the fast track, imagine what the regular passengers have to deal with. But overall, the country is very, very beautiful. The only downside would have to be the airport. If they could fix the airport situation, this country will really take off. Probably the visa also, that's very inconvenient, especially since countries like Singapore, Thailand, so many countries give free arrival, without the visa, make it easy. Even Philippines, there's no need to be charging everyone $50 or $40 for a visa. It's just make it up on some other fee, but that extra step complicates the arrival process. Other than that, like I said, very beautiful country, and I hope to be back, although the only thing that's going to make me hesitate to come back is the airport experience. I'm just being honest. I mean, if the airport was more smooth and efficient, I would come back, I don't know, next year. But I'm going to have to think twice because of the airport. It's that stressful.
And if you're coming to Sri Lanka, you can also watch our best things to do in Colombo video by clicking this one next.